What if the universe handed you the ultimate cheat code and then dressed it up to look like the world's biggest disappointment? That is exactly what happened to Fong Wan, the boy every single person in his city wrote off as ordinary. To understand why that matters, you need to know what kind of world Fong Wan was born into. Decades before his story begins, monsters tore open the sky like it was made of paper. They did not knock. They did not negotiate. They took 70% of the planet and kept it. Humanity got pushed behind massive stone walls, packed in tight, surviving in whatever space was left. The universe, apparently feeling some guilt about all of this, offered humanity a consolation gift. On your 18th birthday, you awaken to a job class, a magical vocation assigned by fate itself. Warriors, knights, mages, healers, these are the ones people pray for, the ones that matter in a world at war. But the system is not picky. Some people wake up and find out destiny wants them to become professional fishermen. No refunds, no exchanges, whatever the universe decides, that is your life. Fong Wan's parents had both been fighters, real ones, the kind who stood between monsters and the city they loved. They died doing exactly that when Fong Wan was 5 years old. Monsters do not offer severance packages, and they certainly do not raise the children they leave behind. So it was just Fong Wan and his older sister, Fong Jing, from that point forward. And his sister was something else entirely. 2 years before his awakening day, Fong Jing activated as a rare ice elemental mage. Not just any mage, the kind that gets scouted immediately, the kind that earns a spot at the most elite academy in the country. She ascended, and she left Fong Wan behind with a reputation he had not asked for. The genius's little brother, no pressure, just the weight of an impossible comparison sitting on his shoulders every single day. When awakening day finally came, Fong Wan stood in that schoolyard alongside his best friend, Zhang Wei. Zhang Wei was built like a refrigerator that had learned how to walk, massive, broad, with a face so warm it could disarm a riot. His father was a butcher. His backup plan was also butchering. He was absolutely terrified. He whispered that he was nervous, physically shaking, gripping Fong Wan's sleeve like a man approaching a cliff edge. The awakening ceremony started, and the results were brutal. Fisherman, farmer, the names got called and the futures got assigned, and most of them were bleak. Then Zhang Wei's name echoed across the yard, and the teacher announced Holy Light Night. This enormous, terrified boy stood completely still for 3 full seconds. Then he sprinted back and grabbed Fong Wan in a bear hug so forceful it rattled bones. He screamed directly into Fong Wan's ear that he would never have to kill pigs again. Fong Wan was happy for him, also briefly deaf in one ear. Then it was his turn. The teacher called out, "Fong Wan." The whisper started before he even reached the circle. "That is Fong Jing's little brother. No way he matches her. Imagine the embarrassment if he gets something ordinary." The entire crowd was already writing his failure before the result even came in. Fong Wan stepped into the circle and closed his eyes. And something deep inside him, something that had been sleeping for 18 years, finally woke up. Words appeared in his mind, visible only to him. Unlimited blade works, modified edition, copy any weapon ever seen, no quality loss. And attached to it, an entire legendary arsenal inherited from a red-clad archer famous for being a bowman who never used his bow. 18 years of waiting, and his cheat code had finally loaded. But on the outside, the teacher simply read the display and announced, "Fong Wan, Archer, Basic Class." Silence. Then the snickering started spreading through the crowd like a wave. Basic Archer. Compared to his sister, the embarrassment seemed to write itself. Someone muttered that he would spend his life shooting arrows off the city wall, like a background character. Not even a fraction of his sister, they said. Not even close. Zhang Wei looked ready to fight every single person in that schoolyard. Fong Wan just smiled. They saw a basic archer. He was sitting on an infinite weapon factory hidden inside his own mind. The crowd thought they had seen his ceiling. They had not even seen his floor. He looked past the city walls toward the monster-infested wasteland stretching out beyond them. And he thought, sure, I am an archer with unlimited everything. Who says a bowman cannot break the entire game? After the ceremony, Fong Wan had to physically calm Zhang Wei down before the man fought someone over a job class. Result: getting angry at idiots is like arguing with pigeons, Fong Wan told him. They just strut around and act like they won. Then Uncle Chen pulled him aside, the school principal. the man who had been the closest thing to a father Fong Wan had known since he was 5. Uncle Chen was a scholar class, a warrior who had traded combat for calligraphy, and was genuinely excellent at both. He sat Fong Wan down with tea and asked what he wanted to do with his life. It was a gentle question wrapped around a worried one, a polished way of asking if Fong Wan needed rescuing. Fong Wan looked him in the eye and said 3 words, "I want strength." No hesitation, no wavering. Uncle Chen did not question it for a single second. He pulled a scroll from his drawer like a quest giver in a story and handed over information on a brand new dungeon, the Dark Forest. Monsters level 5 through 12. Double experience, not yet open to the public. Fong Wan was level 1. It was, by every rational measure, a suicide mission with excellent rewards. That night he checked his stats: strength 5, agility 6, spirit 10. His mental attributes were elevated from memories of a previous life, but everything else was painfully average. A glass cannon without the cannon part. Just the glass. Next morning, he and John Wei hopped a bus to the beginner dungeon, the Jelly Pig Zone. Exactly as embarrassing as it sounds. Packed with freshly awakened students fighting over pink wobbly monsters. They were there to warm up, grind a few levels, prepare for anything serious. Then the drama arrived. Wearing a tight mage robe and carrying the energy of someone about to ruin everyone's day, a girl named Wang Yui approached Jiang Wei with a voice so sweet it could give you diabetes through your ears. She wanted to recruit him for her team, but Fong Wan, sorry, the team was full. 3 people was the maximum now. Her companion, Chin Chan, told Fong Wan directly that he would get bullied by jelly pigs. Jelly pigs. Pink wobbling blobs that moved like they had somewhere to be and absolutely no idea how to get there. Fong Wan told Jiang Wei to relax. The best revenge is leveling up while your haters watch. They stepped through the portal together, and the real show began. Fong Wan reached into his soul and whispered the words, "Trace on." A sleek black bow materialized in his hands from nothing at all. Jiang Wei's jaw dropped open and simply stayed there. 1 arrow, 30 meters, instant death. The pig never made a sound. Then Fong Wan started rapid firing, every arrow landing in a different weak spot. 6 pigs erased in seconds. Jiang Wei tried to help, but had nothing to do. Every target died before it reached sword range. He called Fong Wan a walking artillery turret. It was the most accurate description anyone had ever given him. Half an hour later, Jiang Wei had already reached level 3 without swinging his sword more than twice. Then Chin Chan came screaming out of the bushes, running from elite jelly pigs, shrieking for healing. Wang Yui stood frozen in front of a charging monster with her eyes shut, already composing her own eulogy. Fong Wan put an arrow through that pig's eye socket. It dropped like a bag of wet laundry. Yui opened her eyes, saw him standing there looking composed, and the word useless no longer applied. She squeezed out a thank you like the words physically hurt her to say. He nodded and kept walking. Behind them, Chin Chan muttered something about luck. Even he did not believe it. At Wang Yui, she stood watching Fong Wan's back, doing the math on how badly she had miscalculated. The day was just beginning. They ground jelly pigs for hours, long after everyone else had gone home for lunch. Fong Wan dumped all his stat points into attack speed. He had chosen violence as a lifestyle. Then the sky turned purple. Every pig in the dungeon dropped to its knees. A jelly pig king spawned, level 10, green, armored in crystal, tusks out, looking like a boss fight nobody ordered. They were hilariously underleveled. Any sane strategy said run. Fong Wan had a Norse tracking arrow stored in his mental arsenal. He said he had this. Jiang Wei pulled the small pigs while Fong Wan charged a homing magical arrow. That turned around midair when dodged. He snapped his fingers. The arrow detonated from inside the king. Giant crater. Pig gone. Mana also gone. The loot was extraordinary. Jiang Wei got shining green armor. Fong Wan got wrist guards and a legendary skill book. 10 times attack speed. He went from machine gun to genuine Gatling cannon in 1 afternoon. 10 arrows so fast they looked like a beam of light. 10 pigs deleted simultaneously. On the way out, Wang Yui asked their levels. Jiang Wei said 6. Fong Wan said 8. Their faces collapsed. That night, Fong Wan dove into his mental weapon vault like a kid exploring a room nobody else knew existed. Swords, spears, axes, an entire legendary arsenal floating in the dark, waiting to be called. Most of it was solid, single-use material, perfect for throwing at monster faces on a budget. But deep in the back, something golden caught his attention. The Star of Creation, a weapon so overpowered it had no business existing in any collection. The original archer could not copy it, but Fong Wan's cheat code had received an upgrade patch. If he could picture it, he could build it. No downgrade, no limitations. He could not use it yet. Level 8 against a god-tier requirement. But knowing it sat there made him grin like an idiot. Jiang Wei bailed the next morning. His uncle, a level 25 knight, had summoned him to the capital for personal training. Fong Wan could not blame him. He registered as a solo team, named it Cayman Rider, and picked Saber as his code name. An archer called Saber. The irony was so personal it felt like a mission statement. The registration soldier looked at him like he had ordered his own funeral. Just you alone. The entry form had an actual line that read, "Once inside, life or death is your own problem." A 4-person squad walked in behind him. Their leader gave him the look of a man watching a puppy wander into traffic. Their mage smiled politely, which in combat language translated to, "What an adorable fool." Fong Wan ignored all of them and stepped through the portal. The forest hit him with darkness, the smell of rot, and distant growling from somewhere that sounded expensive. 0 stars. Terrible atmosphere. Perfect conditions for leveling up. 3 black wolves launched from the bushes immediately. 1 arrow each through the eye socket. 3 wolves, 3 shots, 3 goodnight wishes delivered. But when the next wave got close, he ditched the bow and pulled out his favorite pair, the black and white twin swords, Concho and Bakuya. The wolves split clean before they even realized the archer had become a blender. Nobody expects the bowman to go full melee. That element of surprise is its own kind of weapon. Then came the poison vine monsters, and Fong Wan introduced them to his newest trick. Regular arrows mixed with exploding noble phantasms at 10 times speed, basically a fireworks show. With a grudge against plants, he hit level 9 and dumped most of his new points into attack speed, because at this point the addiction was real. Then he found a 3-person squad getting destroyed by a shadow leopard, their tank sweating, their healer panicking, their mage doing the damage equivalent of throwing pillows. He agreed to help in exchange for a cut of the loot, opened with Gatling mode, and melted the leopard in seconds. They offered him a permanent spot. He said no thanks and kept walking. They looked at him like he was insane, probably fair. Then things got spicy. A gang called Blood Wolf was mugging a 2-person team, their assassin mid-monologue, about handing over possessions or dying. Fong Wan shot the knife out of his hand before he finished the sentence. Their axe-wielding leader charged, assuming an archer would be soft in close range. He swapped the twin swords, deleted their mage in one combo, then Gatling gunned the leader's back until he stopped moving. The assassin tried to run. 1 arrow through the heart. 3 bandits. 15 seconds total. The girl they had been robbing stood there whispering his code name, Saber. The archer called Saber. His personal comedy was continuing to age beautifully. The grand finale of the Dark Forest was a level 12 tree monster, an angry wood demon, that whipped vines and spawned baby trees like a botanical nightmare. He carved through the minions with twin swords, then reached for something heavier from his mental collection. Guy Bulge, the legendary spear that rewrites cause and effect so that it will hit your heart, no matter what you do to stop it. He threw it. The tree demon crossed both arms to block. Causality ignored those arms entirely. Spear punched through. Tree demon became firewood. The loot chest was purple, a shadow damage bow, an area attack arrow range skill, a rare crafting core worth serious money. One day in this forest, he had gone from the basic archer kid to a walking war crime, and he was just warming up. He found a cave with a rock wall behind it, thorn bushes on 3 sides, 1 entrance, clear sightline forward, monster repellent powder around the perimeter, campfire lit, loot arranged in front of him like a dragon counting its gold. Purple bow, shadow armor, arrow range skill, a tree demon core worth a small fortune. Level 10 on day 1 inside a dungeon that had almost nothing to offer him anymore. What he did not know was that 3 very angry people were hunting him at that exact moment. The 4-person squad from the entrance, the ones with the dramatic code names, Sword Immortal, Spell Emperor, Shield God. They had come specifically for that tree boss. Fong Wan had killed their target and taken their loot without knowing they existed. Their leader was so furious he cracked open an expensive tracking crystal, just to follow Fong Wan's energy signature through the forest. Spending real money to come murder a solo archer, the dedication was almost impressive. Their reasoning: he just fought a boss. He must be exhausted. Jump him while he is weak. Which, honestly, was not a bad plan. The spear throw had absolutely drained him. So there sat Fong Wan by his campfire, chewing dried food, feeling excellent about life, completely unaware that 3 people with main character syndrome code names were creeping through the tree line toward his firelight. But no one saw what was coming, least of all them. He had been tracking them since they were stumbling through the bushes, like tourists on the wrong trail. Their big play, sneak attack the exhausted solo player, cute idea, except he was not exhausted. He was bored. He opened with a shadow arrow at their tank. Should have been a one-shot. The man actually blocked it. Fong Wan had to respect that for exactly 1 second before the rest of the plan fell apart for them. Their leader, Sword Immortal, real name probably something very average, stomped forward demanding Fong Wan hand over the loot, and also cut off one of his own arms as an apology. His companion helpfully mentioned that Sword Immortal came from a prestigious sword family, as if that would help. Their combination attack looked textbook on paper. Giant sword from above. 3 fireballs sealing every escape route. Fong Wan answered with arrow rain at 10 times speed aimed straight at their mage. She screamed. Their tank tried to shield her. His shadow arrow cooldown had just refreshed. The arrow punched clean through the shield. The mage dropped seconds later. 3-on-1 became 1-on-1 in approximately 6 seconds. Then Sword Immortal demanded Fong Wan stop dodging, so he put away the bow and pulled out the twin swords. 5 emotions crossed that man's face in under a second. Confusion, disbelief, amusement, then terror. Fong Wan dodged a sword the size of a small car by millimeters and kicked him in the chest. Called him sword trash directly to his face. Sword Immortal did not take that well. He began charging his ultimate fire technique, which required standing completely still against a ranged fighter with no teammates left alive. Genius-level strategic thinking. Fong Wan backflipped away, materialized his bow, loaded an explosive noble phantasm arrow, and delivered the punchline. Artist explosion. The detonation rattled the trees for 50 meters in every direction. Good night, Sword Immortal. He looted the body like a responsible citizen, over $1 million in currency, rare materials, a full backpack of things that had belonged to someone who would no longer need them. 3 glorious days in the dark forest followed, every living thing converted to experience points. He hit level 13. That was above the dungeon's own level cap. He had not broken any rules. He had broken the math itself. By the end, killing wolves gave him 22 experience each, the equivalent of getting paid in pocket lint. Time to leave. He was planning his exit when the ground started shaking like an earthquake. That had developed a personal vendetta. Eagle Eye activated, and he saw a tidal wave of every monster type in the forest, stampeding toward him at once. Wolves, vine demons, shadow leopards, tree monsters. Someone had kicked over every nest at the same time. And leading this parade of chaos, a girl with a ponytail flying, sprinting like her life depended on every single step. Because it absolutely did. Here is the part no one expected. Fong Wan was perfectly hidden. The stampede would have run right past him. He would have been completely fine. Instead, this girl spotted him, changed direction, grabbed his wrist, and dragged him directly into her problem. They ran through the densest parts of the forest, dodging creatures left and right, until they finally dove into a cave together and the sounds faded behind them. She caught her breath, smiled apologetically, and asked if he was okay. He told her he was fine before she showed up. Her name was Tao Yao Yao, level 15 shadow assassin. She had apparently stolen something from monster territory. She would not say what exactly. Whatever it was, it had made the entire forest want her dead, and by association, him too. Good news. He had met a genuinely decent person in a dungeon full of murderers. Bad news. She had the survival instincts of a moth near a bonfire, and those instincts were now his problem. She showed him what she had stolen, a glowing stone called an origin stone, something that breaks through level limits and unlocks advanced skills. She pulled it out and handed it to him like offering a sandwich to a friend. He asked if she was not worried he would steal it. She said his eyes looked honest for robbery. Either she was an excellent judge of character or dangerously naive. The jury was still deliberating. Then she dropped the real offer on the table. She knew where a second origin stone was being sat on by a 30-meter rock giant, with infinite health regeneration written into the dungeon's contract with it. Unkillable, unless someone broke that contract first. She needed muscle. He had a contract-breaking dagger from a legendary Greek sorceress sitting in his mental arsenal. Match made in a very chaotic heaven. Their plan was, by any objective measure, beautifully stupid. He would anger a building-sized monster while she retrieved the stone from beneath it. Then he would sprint up his arm, stab it with the anti-contract dagger, backflip off, and carpet bomb it from midair. Which is exactly what happened. Because sometimes stupid plans work when the person executing them is sufficiently insane. He ran up the giant's arm like it was a ramp, drove the dagger into its chest, snapped the immortality claws binding it to the dungeon, then jumped and unleashed arrow rain mixed with disposable legendary weapons on the way down. Tao materialized from the shadows doing assassin things on the ground. The giant died in minutes. The loot split was absurd. She got purple assassin gear. He got energy wings, an epic skill that literally grew flight capability from his back, and a pair of straw sandals. Straw sandals with plus 15 agility, fashioned dyed so speed could live. He put them on and felt like he could outrun logic itself. Tao watched him break a divine contract, melee a colossus as an archer, and rain explosions from the sky within 10 minutes. She stared at him like he was a different species. Then she asked where he was applying for college. They were both aiming for Shungjing Academy, the same school, where his sister had already made her name. She mentioned the entrance exam had moved to the provincial capital this year. Useful information he had somehow missed. They exchanged contacts, walked to the exit together, and she talked the entire way while he deflected questions, with the conversational grace of a brick wall. At the portal, she waved goodbye with a cheerful promise to see him at the exam and vanished. 3 days in the dark forest. Entered at level 8, left at level 14, made a friend, exploded several bosses, acquired flight capability, and wore sandals into battle. Not bad for a basic archer. 1 month of solo grinding later, Fong Wan walked out of various dungeons at level 17. His original goal had been 15. He had overshot it the way a rocket overshoots a kite. John Wei called from his uncle's boot camp, proudly announcing he had reached level 11. Genuinely impressive. Then he asked Fong Wan's level. The silence that followed when Fong Wan said 17 lasted long enough to be medically concerning. Then came the explosion, hacking accusations, possession theories, questions about cheat systems. Fong Wan told him to relax. It was basic stuff. John Wei did not relax. Dinner at Uncle Chen's house followed. Fong Wan dropped 17 casually into conversation like it was nothing special. Uncle Chen sprayed his tea across the room in a full arc. Nearly redecorated the living room. He had expected Fong Wan to maybe scrape 10. 17 arrived like an uninvited thunderstorm. For context, Fong Jing, the legendary ice mage prodigy everyone compared him to, had been only level 15 before her own entrance exam. Fong Wan had passed her benchmark without even aiming at it. Uncle Chen's wife, Annie Chen, was a combat chef, a warrior whose cooking literally restored health and mana. Dinner was like eating a healing potion shaped into a 5-course meal. She told him kids who murder things for a living need proper nutrition. Fair point. Uncle Chen warned him the provincial capital would be full of rich family kids, pumped with premium resources since birth. Some might be higher level. Fong Wan thought about this for exactly 1 second. He had an infinite weapon factory in his skull, a Norse tracking missile, a Greek contract-breaking dagger, straw sandals that made him faster than common sense. Whatever those trust fund kids brought, let them bring it. 3 days later, he was on a plane to the provincial capital with 57 other students, most of them shaking like they had seen something terrible. Jiang Wei showed up looking like his uncle had disassembled him and put him back together stronger, tan, bulkier, quieter, but still the same lovable idiot underneath. He sat next to Fong Wan and asked if they could stay up all night talking. Fong Wan reminded him they had an exam tomorrow. Jiang Wei was 11 years old emotionally. The capital was massive, thousands of students flooding in from across the province. Like a synchronized nerd invasion. Everyone buzzed about one name, Linshan, level 20, rare sword soul class. Already defeated a level 22 elite monster solo. Basically the final boss of this exam wearing a student uniform. Jiang Wei asked if they could beat him. Fong Wan said if they could not, they would run. Jiang Wei found this incredibly wise. They bought healing potions, skipped the weapon shops because Fong Wan's brain was a weapon shop, ate street noodles, and went to sleep. Morning arrived. The theory exam happened. Fong Wan moved through it while everyone around him forgot how reading worked. Then came the afternoon briefing, where the exam chief, a man named Shout-Eyed Jun, who looked like he bench-pressed armored vehicles, dropped the real information. 3-day survival run inside a brand new dungeon, monsters up to level 25. Kill things, collect loot, earn points, team up or sabotage each other. Only rule, no killing other students. Crush your emergency talisman if dying, but that means automatic failure. His pep talk boiled down to, scared people should reconsider becoming warriors. 10,000 teenagers sat there quietly rethinking their entire career paths. Fong Wan was already planning his route. Exam day, 10,000 teenagers in a field, about to be launched into a survival dungeon. John Wei was next to him, having a full-body panic attack. Fong Wan told him to breathe. He breathed. It got worse. Classic John. The portal opened and swallowed everyone like a machine that had been patient long enough. Fong Wan landed in dead terrain. Gray sky, cracked ground, dead trees. Wind carrying sand into places it had no business being. Communications blocked. Nobody in sight. No teammates. No instructions. Just a wasteland and his own judgment. 3 sand lizards erupted from the ground immediately. 3 arrows. 3 headshots. 30 points. He checked the math. At 10 points per lizard, reaching a competitive score would require killing approximately 1 billion of them. So he did what every reasonable person in his position would do. He marched straight toward the dangerous center of the map, where the big things lived. Every survival manual ever written said not to do that. Every survival manual was written by someone without a weapon factory in their skull. In a monitoring room somewhere, judges were watching everyone on security feeds like the world's most stressful reality broadcast. Lin Chen was cutting through monsters like a machine. Tao Yao was eliminating targets so cleanly the judges were leaning forward in their chairs. Then one of them noticed a solo archer heading directly into the deep zone and pulled up his file. Level 17. Solo. Going deeper. The head judge found this entertaining rather than alarming. Good. Let them watch. Fong Wan found a level 20 armored lizard boss sitting inside a stone maze. Like it had claimed the territory. His first arrow bounced off its scales like a grape hitting a tank. So he carpet bombed it with every explosive noble phantasm he could pull from his mental collection. Fear comes from insufficient firepower. The lizard died. He got a speed skill and some armor he could not yet wear. Day 1. Almost 2,000 points deep. Then 5 students appeared, saw the dead boss, saw one person, one bow, and made a unanimous decision. Their captain delivered the classic villain script, hand over the loot, or get turned into monster food. 5 on 1. Simple math. They figured it was easy. They figured wrong. He disarmed their mage with a wrist shot, sliced behind their swordsmen with twin blades, carpet bombed the group with arrow rain, then speed blitzed through them like a mixer through something soft. All 5 hit the ground in under a minute. Not dead. The rule said no killing. Just very, very sorry about their career choices. He took all their points, 800 extra. Thank you very much. They had to crush their emergency charms and quit the entire exam. Every one of them, gone. The head examiner had started taking specific notes on Fong Wan by this point. Good. He was heading east toward the real monsters, converting every would-be robber into a bonus score along the way. Almost 3,000 points and still hungry. By day 2, he had crossed 12,000 points and hit level 19 by treating the deep zone as a personal grocery run. A purple skill book appeared in his loot, the ability to summon the phantom clones of himself, each carrying 30% of his full power. He could now be 3 people at once, all 3 of them dangerous. He learned it immediately. When has more of yourself ever been a bad idea? Then the sky broke. A swirling vortex, black clouds, thunder. The unmistakable visual signature of something waking up that should have stayed asleep. And sprinting toward him from the direction of that nightmare, Lin Chen himself. Level 20, first tier sword soul. The person everyone said would win this exam without breaking a sweat. He was running for his life from 100 tiny bat-winged demons leaking corruption that rotted everything they touched. His sword could not keep pace with their numbers. He screamed at Fong Wan to retreat because melee fighters crowed from their aura. Fong Wan looked at him, looked at his bow, said, "What if I'm ranged, though?" Lin Chen's face went completely blank. Then Fong Wan deleted the entire swarm in 8 seconds. Arrow rain at 10 times speed. 100 demons turned into floor decorations while Lin Chen stood there, rebuilding his entire understanding of what archers do. They introduced themselves. Lynchen stared at him the way people stare at something that should not exist. They were about to report the corrupted demons when the sky vortex accelerated, and something enormous began crawling through it. The pressure alone made Fong Wan's bones vibrate. Lynchen and Fong Wan shared one look, the universal expression for absolutely not, and both sprinted in the opposite direction without a single word of discussion. Sometimes wisdom is just running very fast together. What neither of them knew was that back in the monitoring room, every college recruiter watching had just discovered Fong Wan was Fong Jing's little brother. Sign him immediately, offer him everything, scholarship and a puppy if that is what it takes. The head examiner from Shengjing Academy sat there smirking because he already knew where Fong Wan would end up. Meanwhile, outside, Fong Wan was fighting for his life. Completely unaware, he had become the hottest free agent in academic history. The sky finished tearing and dropped a 50-meter demon ape covered in corruption fog. Level 25. Polluted by the abyss. Something that categorically should not exist inside a student exam. Fong Wan's arrows did 22 damage. Lynchen's legendary sword technique managed 15. They were tickling a skyscraper-sized gorilla with an anger management problem. It trapped them inside a dome of dark energy. No exit. Then screamed so hard the ground split and their health bars dipped. They started playing the most terrifying game of tag either had ever experienced, taking turns drawing the ape's attention while the other attacked from behind. Beautiful teamwork, embarrassing damage output. Lynchen ran, stopped, turned back, and said he could not leave Fong Wan alone. Touching, except he could not hurt the creature either. He offered to draw its attention. He yelled at the thing, swung his sword for 15 damage, and stood there. Bravest useless gesture Fong Wan had ever witnessed. Then he spotted it, a black crystal embedded in the ape's chest. The corruption core. Lynchen tried hitting it. The hit bounced off like a foam dart. So Fong Wan reached for the big stick. Guy bulge again, the spear that rewrites the rules of reality so it will strike your heart, regardless of what you do to prevent it. The ape crossed both arms to block. Causality did not care about those arms. The spear punched through, hit the crystal, and Fong Wan detonated it from the inside. 10,000 points. 0 loot, because corrupted monsters are generous with experience and stingy with presence. He collapsed, mana gone, legs gone, dignity barely intact. Lynchen leaned on his sword wheezing compliments between ragged breaths. Then the examiners burst through the barrier. Abyss corruption in a student exam, classified as a major catastrophic incident. Exam terminated immediately. Everyone out. At least Fong Wan had secured his points first. But the dungeon disagreed about the exit timeline. Dark portals ripped open everywhere, spinning corrupted monsters like the world's worst party favors. Examiner Xiao Tai Jun pulled out a flaming spear and revealed himself as a level 50 warrior, suppressed by the dungeon's equalizer down to 25. Decades of combat experience, half his power, still standing between them and everything trying to kill them. Then a level 49-headed snake squeezed through a portal, also nerfed to 25. Still absolutely horrifying. Its one weakness, all 9 heads had to be severed simultaneously or every cut grew back. Xiao's fire attacks bounced. Lynchen's sword scratched like a kitten on stone. Fong Wan's arrows simply got dodged. The snake moved like it was dancing. Black poison rain began falling. Lynchen lost 1,000 health points from a few drops. They were running out of ideas and health at the same time. So Fong Wan reached into the very back of his mental arsenal and pulled out something absolutely stupid. Heracle's 9 lives, a legendary blade designed to deliver 9 strikes in a single swing. 9 heads, 9 strikes. The math was too perfect to question. He jumped into the air holding a sword bigger than his entire body, a bowman carrying a great sword, like it was always the plan. He used straw sandal speed and wind sprint to dodge poison rain mid-flight, then brought the blade down with everything remaining in his body. 9 slashes, 9 heads, 9 simultaneous cuts. Done. 50,000 points. 0 mana. 0 regrets. Lynchen's vocabulary reduced to 2 syllables. Xiao stood there with his mouth open, recalculating what an archer was supposed to be. Fong Wan called it a small trick. Xiao twitched hard enough to pull a muscle, and that was when the cavalry arrived. The sky cracked and they dropped from it, leading them, the vice principal of Shengjing Academy, a level 90 water mage in a tuxedo, gold-rimmed glasses, an elegant cane, looking like he had dressed for an opera and arrived at an apocalypse instead. Behind him, warriors in the 80 to 90 range. They formed a single magic circle and purified the entire dungeon in 30 seconds. Every corrupted creature turned to dust. Every dark portal sealed shut, like watching someone press undo on the end of the world. It took less time than Fong Wan spent deciding what to eat for breakfast. That was what fourth-tier power looked like. It made him feel like a toddler who had been proudly displaying finger paintings. When scores were finally read, Fong Wan, 96,120 points. First place. Lin Chen had 33,000 and wore the expression of a man who had trained his entire life for silver. Zhang Wei tackled Fong Wan the moment he materialized outside, then saw the score and short-circuited. Everyone within earshot went silent. A kid who had been proud of his 2,000 points quietly processed the need for therapy. That gap between them was not a gap. It had weather patterns. Somewhere thousands of miles away, in a demon-infested borderland dungeon, Fong Jing received a one-line notification on her emergency communicator. Freshman Fong Wan has entered the genius rankings. She had spent months not knowing if her little brother had even passed his entrance exam. Surprise, sis. He had not just gotten in. He had kicked the door off its hinges. Results day brought 10,000 students into a plaza sweating like they owed the universe a debt. Almost perfect score on the written exam. Theory points tied with Tao Yao Yao, who apparently had both beauty and brains, which felt genuinely unfair. Lin Chen missed one question and visibly lost a piece of himself watching that be announced. Then the combat scores were read and the plaza went so quiet. You could hear the wind apologizing for existing. Then 7 legendary figures stepped onto the stage, representatives from all 7 elite academies, each one trying to purchase him like an auction prize. Tuxedo Man offered a legendary skill book, legendary armor, free mentor selection, and access to a mysterious exploration program. Thunderfist countered with all of that plus a custom epic armor set, and access to the greatest living archer teacher. A sword lady offered to personally train him, because she had watched the footage of him swinging a great sword and decided that counted. Legendary gear was being thrown at him like he was a wishing well. He picked Shengjing Academy. Obviously, his sister was there. The resources went deeper than anywhere else, and Tuxedo Man had been playing the long game from the start. The man handed him to gifts immediately. Star Meteor Strike, a legendary skill that dropped celestial destruction across a wide area, and Void Walker armor that allowed short-range teleportation, both usable at any level. He went from well-equipped to walking apocalypse in 30 seconds. Tao Yao Yao chose Shengjing as well. They shook hands. He forced his brain to stay professional. Zhang Wei picked Earth Academy, still elite, but the lowest of the 7, and looked exactly like a kid being dropped at summer camp. Lin Chen went to Dragon Tiger Academy, shook Fong Wan's hand, and promised a rematch someday. Good. Chase him, buddy. Province champion, to legendary items richer, headed to the same school as his genius sister. Pretty assassin as a future classmate. Not bad for a basic archer that an entire crowd had laughed at on Awakening Day. 3 days later, he collected his province champion prize, Origin Liquid, the substance that upgrades skills. The Education Bureau director, a kind old man named Director G, turned out to be Uncle Chen's closest friend. Of course he was. Uncle Chen was quietly assembling a network of powerful uncles around Fong Wan like the most wholesome protection operation in history. Director G handed over the Origin Liquid, then pulled out a second gift, an epic poison arrow skill that shreds defenses, while dealing damage over time. True damage, explosive damage, shadow damage, area damage, poison. His attack portfolio was more diversified than a hedge fund. He tried to be humble about accepting the second gift. Director G essentially told him to take it or he was being weird, so he took it. He was a people person. Dinner happened because Director G would not allow him to leave without eating, and he dropped useful wisdom about the academy and the world in general. That night, Fong Wan thought about his father, wondered if he would have sounded the same, the nagging, the food, the quiet pride underneath all of it. Probably. That thought landed softer than any monster he had ever fought. Next morning, he cracked open the Origin Liquid, drank it, and chose Eagle Eye for the upgrade. The skill everyone had called useless. The ability that had quietly saved his life more times than he could count. His entire body lit up. The liquid settled and his eyes rebooted. When he opened them, the world had been upgraded from blurry to surgical. He could count the feathers on a bird outside his window. Basic Eagle Eye, the skill everyone called garbage, had evolved into 1,000-meter eyes, an epic sniper ability with accurate range up to 10 kilometers. He could now headshot someone from another zip code, but the upgrade included a bonus. A second skill emerged from the evolution, True Mind's Eye, combat instinct that predicts enemy moves and finds escape routes even in situations that look completely hopeless. These were the signature abilities of the legendary Red Archer, whose entire weapon collection lived inside his skull. The universe was building him into that Archer's successor, one piece at a time. He was absolutely not complaining. A silver airship with the phoenix crest of Shungjing Academy gleaming on its hull landed at the dock. Tao Yao was already there in a white dress that had no right looking that good at a boarding gate. They boarded together, and as his feet left the ground, he felt it, the next chapter lifting off with him. Basic archer from a small coastal city, infinite arsenal in his head, 10 kilometers of perfect aim in his eyes. Let's see what they had. On the airship, Tao Yao demolished steamed buns and porridge like a starving raccoon while somehow maintaining her dignity. Then she caught herself staring at his face and turned red for reasons she did not explain. He chose not to investigate. A golden-haired boy named Sun Muang appeared and tried to flirt with Tao, using a line about their shared exam rankings making them soulmates. She rejected him before he finished the sentence. Fong Wan grabbed watermelon and settled in to enjoy the show. Then this same boy began enthusiastically fanboying about the legendary student from the southwest province who scored 96,000 points during an actual demon invasion. Tao watched him with the expression of someone watching a person walk directly into a glass door. The boy had arrived to flirt with a girl and accidentally organized a fan meeting for the man sitting 3 feet away. Someone else recognized Fong Wan and said hello. Sun Muang's brain buffered for 4 seconds. Then he exploded, from failed Romeo to screaming fanboy in one heartbeat, called Fong Wan his idol, immediately sat down and declared himself a permanent fixture at the table. Then he looked at Tao and said she must be the girlfriend. Gorgeous, he said. Fong Wan clarified she was not his girlfriend. Tao smiled and said, not yet, anyway. Sun Muang nodded like he had solved the puzzle and declared this was clearly the chasing phase, and wished him luck. A stranger had just written Fong Wan's love story for him while the girl in question winked. Like this had all been part of her plan. He changed the subject to Sun Muang's lightning fire mudge class. Before anything more dangerous could develop, Sun Muang glued himself to their table like a golden-haired puppy who had found his forever home. He wanted to join their dungeon team. Tao immediately protested that she had been there first. They argued over who got priority on Fong Wan's coattails while he ate watermelon, and wondered when he had become a franchise. Then a tall figure walked up with a giant black sword on his back, and one arm concealed inside his clothes, acting completely serious about it. His name was Duanong, top scorer from the central province. 3 sentences of composed dialogue, and then he turned and walked away. Fong Wan respected the commitment to the aesthetic, even if it was completely ridiculous. Sun Muang dropped actually useful information between his fanboy moments. The academy had a genius ranking. Top 100 students by combat power, updated monthly. Top 50 got rare materials. Top 10 got epic rewards and qualified for the exploration program, the same program his sister had joined. The thing that had transformed her from talented to legendary. He needed in. The airship broke through the clouds, and there it was below, the capital city, towers everywhere. A glowing spire in the center reaching into the sky like it was trying to poke heaven. New city, new school, new rivals, same infinite weapon arsenal stored in his head. Shungjing Academy was everything its reputation promised. Giant campus, multiple airship docks, enough real estate in the most expensive city in the country to make a billionaire envious. The Dean of Discipline delivering the welcome speech turned out to be Xiao Tai-jun, the same examiner who had watched Fong Wan fight a demon ape and a 9-headed snake. His speech boiled down to, congratulations on surviving enough to get here. Now try not to get kicked out. Tomorrow they would face the trial tower, artificial dungeon, endless monster waves. If you performed badly enough, you got expelled. They had just passed a life-threatening entrance exam to enter a school with zero tolerance for mediocrity. This place had absolutely no chill. The housing system was pure meritocracy. Top 10 provincial scorers got private villas. Fong Wan got villa number 3. Tao got number 5. Sun Muang got number 7. Neighbors, all 3 of them in a row. He stared at his key card and watched his future peace and quiet evaporate in real time. The vice principal arrived at his door that evening with information that changed his approach entirely. To pass the first tier breakthrough, the easy way, consume the origin stone, level up, end up average, which explained exactly why Lynch hit first tier and still could not scratch a corrupted ape. The hard way, use the stone as a catalyst while completing an impossible solo challenge. Kill 20 level 25 monsters and 10 level 30 monsters entirely alone. Almost nobody attempted this. It was essentially a suicide contract with better long-term rewards. Fong Wan picked the hard way before the sentence was finished. The vice principal laughed like a proud uncle watching a nephew volunteer for something genuinely dangerous. He warned that the trial tower monsters could not kill, but the pain and mental damage were completely real. Then he mentioned, as if it were a footnote, Fong Jing was away on the exploration program and could not visit yet. Dropped that quietly and walked out, looking elegant as always. Next morning, thousands of freshmen stood before a black tower covered in glowing runes. A monster delivery machine that doubled the enemy count every wave and raised their level by 5 each time. Sun Muang cheered, Tao fist pumped. Fong Wan walked in gripping his bow, grinning like someone who had already seen the ending and liked it. Wave 1, 100 skeleton soldiers clanking like haunted wind chimes, arrow rain, gone in one shot. Wave 2, 200 tiger cats, tiny adorable felines that roared like lions and attacked with total sincerity. He swept them aside with his bow like a broom clearing a pile. Rock puppets, shadow wolves, each floor doubled and elevated. The pattern was obvious. The difficulty was climbing. For Fong Wan, it was still target practice with extra steps. He blazed through 5 floors without a single break, because rest is for people, not chasing an impossible advancement quest before lunch. Wave 5 was 1,600 fire-breathing lizards. He turned the arena into a fireworks show. Poison arrows to melt their defenses, phantom clones for triple coverage, arrow rain for the cleanup, 10 times speed, 10 minutes flat. The monitoring room full of teachers apparently had a collective meltdown, watching a bowman beat lizards in hand-to-hand combat between sniper volleys. One teacher screamed. Shout-Hai Jun just smirked and said, "Yeah, that is normal for him." The other provincial champions were still on floor 4. The gap between Fong Wan and the rest of the world was not shrinking, it was purchasing property. 2 more floors stood between him and a proper first-tier breakthrough. Floor 6 threw 3,200 electric eagles at him, flying enemies. That fired lightning. Most archers would have wept. He dropped Star Meteor Strike on them, the new legendary skill that summoned actual celestial bombardment. Then grew his energy wings, flew up into the middle of them, and started sword-fighting eagles in midair. A bowman, flying, with a sword, fighting birds. His old classmates from Awakening Day would have needed group therapy. Floor 7 was different. 6,400 corrupted demon dogs, level 30, with a berserk buff. That made them faster and meaner than anything he had faced in this tower. Regular arrows barely registered. He switched to full noble phantasm mode. Every arrow an exploding legendary weapon. When that was not enough, he grabbed a different legendary spear from his mantle collection and chucked it into the densest cluster, then detonated every last drop of mana into one final Star Meteor Strike. An actual meteor. Onto dogs. The tower shook hard enough for students on other floors to feel it under their feet. What he did not know was that the vice principal had brought a level 95 sword master, named Chunqing, to watch his fight on a monitoring screen. This man had not taken a student in years, was watering flowers in retirement, and had no plans to change that. Tuxedo Man showed him the footage and made a single pitch. This kid fights everywhere, ground, air, close range, long range, bows, swords, knives, spears. He is your philosophy with a younger face. The old master watched 6,000 dogs get deleted by a college freshman and said, "I will take him." Dropped his watering can, sprinted to the tower, to legends racing across campus to adopt one student. Fong Wan had become the most wanted person at this school. Duan, still on floor 5, felt the meteor impact rattle his entire dimension. Tao Yao Yao, without hesitation, said, "That is definitely Fong Wan." She knew him better than he knew himself, and they had spent maybe 3 days together total. Fong Wan walked out of the tower looking calm, while every teacher in the building stared at him, like he was wearing human skin over something else entirely. The recruitment parade was immediate. A gorgeous archer teacher who invented exploding arrow techniques, a thunder spear instructor, a dual blade master, a great sword specialist, all lined up outside. Then an old man descended from the sky on a flying sword, landed in the middle of the courtyard, standing on a blade like he had done it 10,000 times and found it slightly boring. Level 95. Sword Immortal class. Had not taken a student in years. He looked at every other teacher and said, "This student is mine." Who agrees? Who objects? Nobody objected to a 95 level grandpa who had arrived by standing on a sword. The others protested that he was a sword class and Fong Wan was an archer. The old man shut them down instantly. He said he did not teach classes, he taught combat philosophy. And this kid already fought like a complete system. He did not need a teacher. He needed a guardian. He walked up and asked if Fong Wan wanted to be his disciple. Fong Wan looked at this man who had flown here on a blade and thought, "I am a bowman with a head full of legendary swords and a dream of mastering close combat. And he is offering to teach me how to surf through the sky on steel. Where do I sign?" He asked only one question. Why me? The old master's answer was simple. He had watched every second of the tower fight, and what had impressed him was not the meteor. It was that Fong Wan had known exactly when to drop it. Most geniuses die young because they are too reckless to fight smart. Survival was rarer than power, and he had watched enough talented people disappear over the decades to recognize the difference. Fong Wan accepted on the spot. Master Chong's training philosophy was efficient. You already know how to fight, so go level up, and I will watch from the shadows in case you almost die. 1 month of dungeon grinding inside the Academy's artificial systems shot Fong Wan from level 21 to 28, 7 levels in 30 days. The other provincial champions came to visit, discovered his level, and collectively experienced what scientists might describe as identity collapse through comparison. Then he announced he was challenging the Genius ranking, the school-wide top 100 combat leaderboard, where the lowest entries were level 30-something veterans. He was a freshman. This had never been attempted. Even Fong Jing had not touched that list until sophomore year. Sun Nuang immediately appointed himself unofficial publicist and told every human on campus that his big brother was coming for the rankings. Master Chong sipped his tea and shrugged. Go ahead. The arena was packed. Half the audience expected him to get destroyed and had come to watch that happen. His opponent, Wang Mang, level 32 berserker, built like a refrigerator that had learned kickboxing, carrying an axe the size of Fong Wan's entire torso. He offered Fong Wan a chance to surrender before things got embarrassing. Sweet gesture, completely wrong read. The fight started. He charged. Fong Wan kited him around the arena like a dog chasing a laser pointer. Poison arrows to slow his stats, to phantom clones for triple arrow coverage. Wings deployed, and then the berserker cracked the ground open with an earthquake technique, and Fong Wan was already above it. A berserker is terrifying on the ground, against a flying archer with 10 times attack speed and sniper precision. He was a very angry man with no way to reach his target. Fong Wan turned him into a pincushion from above, while the man screamed stop running at someone who was hovering in the air. The crowd went from skeptical silence to confused laughter to genuine shock as the health bar melted. Rank 100, barely warmed up, the real target started at 50. Sun Muang sprinted down claiming the arrows had formed a dragon shape. They had not, but correcting his enthusiasm was like arguing with weather. And what happened next would change everything, because beating rank 100 earned Fong Wan his first stalker, a pale-faced, gold-haired psychopath named Wei Shi, ranked 2nd on the Genius list, level 40 Storm Fist fighter. He had decided Fong Wan needed to suffer because Fong Jing had rejected his love confession and blocked his path into the exploration program. His logical response to that, murder the younger brother. He contacted his minion, Wu Xiaowu, rank 53, a fighter who could transform into an eagle, and ordered him to challenge Fong Wan and accidentally kill him during the match. These two were planning an assassination over expensive wine like budget Bond villains. Meanwhile, Fong Wan was completely unaware of any of this, eating hot pot with his crew, Sun Nuang, Duanong, and Wu Ying, celebrating his ranking debut. The vice principal informed him the next morning, to pieces of news. Good. His sister was coming home soon from her frontline mission. Bad. Wei Shi had a grudge and might be targeting him. Province champion, Genius list member, flying sword student, and now assassination target. His to-do list had a new category. He recruited Sun Muong as his intelligence network. The boy delivered a complete dossier like he had been waiting his whole life for someone to ask. Wei Shi had minions scattered through the rankings at positions 53, 6-7, and 81, like a chess player who had positioned his pawns everywhere in advance. Master Chong's response was the most composed threat Fong Wan had ever heard. If someone tries to kill you, kill them first. Consequences are my department. Then he casually attached an invisible sword spirit to Fong Wan's body, a panic button that would teleport Master Chong to his exact location if he was about to die. Having a level 95 bodyguard on speed dial genuinely takes the edge off assassination plots. He sent Fong Wan to a special ocean dungeon for double experience, and a mystery item called Mermaid's Tears. No explanation of what it did, just smiled and said to get it. One of Wei Shi's people, rank 81, showed up at the dungeon entrance to trash talk and promised revenge inside. Fong Wan added him to his mental list, right below find the mermaid item and above eat dinner. Then the portal opened into a gorgeous ocean world, and out of nowhere, Tao Yao Yao appeared, tanned from assassin training, upgraded, and carrying a gift, purple speed boots to replace his legendary straw sandals. She had heard about Wei Shi's operation and came to watch his back. They teamed up immediately. They found a mermaid temple on the biggest island and walked toward it together, until a massive fireball came screaming at their faces. Foreign players had been camping inside, waiting for exactly this. Their fire mage launched a homing fireball that grew larger by absorbing ambient mana around it. Fong Wan stopped walking, raised one hand, whispered words that meant something only to him, and materialized a legendary 7-petaled shield. Fireball stopped. He launched his scout bird to mark every enemy hiding inside that temple, and started picking them off like a shooting gallery from outside the walls. One katana fighter deleted before he could draw his blade. A spirit summoner dropped by an arrow that punched through the summon and kept going. The fire mage got chased around the island by a self-tracking hunting arrow until it caught him. An assassin tried to backstab Fong Wan from behind. Tao materialized first and introduced his spine to her new orange dagger. 8 enemies, 2 minutes. He retrieved the mermaid's tear from the temple altar. A legendary pearl formed from an actual mermaid's grief. No idea what it did yet, but Master Chong wanted it, so into the pocket it went. Then Wei Shi's rank 81 lackey appeared at the entrance, expecting to find a corpse. Instead, he found Fong Wan standing over a pile of defeated foreigners. Surrounded by floating swords, he was controlling with his thoughts. The lackey tried to negotiate. Fong Wan snapped his fingers. Tao walked over and added a stab just to be equally guilty. "We are in this together," she said, smiling like an angel who had committed a felony. That girl was perfect and slightly terrifying. Used the remaining time to grind sea monsters for double experience. One shot a level 30 lightning sea snake that had launched itself out of the ocean, like an audition for a horror film. He looted a staff that was secretly a sword. Perfect gift for Sun Muong, his favorite fragile maniac who dreamed of punching things. Despite being structurally composed of optimism and good intentions, Tao said goodbye with a smile that hit harder than most of his arrows. She was not trying to be anyone's sidekick. She wanted to stand beside him as an equal. He respected that completely. Master Chong handed him a shopping list for his future, 5 more mysterious items to collect. Before level 39, Philosopher's Stone, Satan's Fang, Unicorn's Sword, Eifel's Ring, Soren's Book, a scavenger hunt assembled from 6 different mythologies by someone who had clearly been reading it broadly. No explanation of their purpose, just, "You will find out at 39. Fine." He would operate on blind faith from his flower-watering sword grandpa. He hit level 30 the night before facing Eagle Boy, and the system handed him a birthday gift. A passive skill called Valor, mental attack immunity, and a boost to melee damage. The universe had looked at his job title, Archer, then looked at his actual fighting style, and quietly made it official. The fight against Wu Xiaowu started and immediately confirmed this was not about winning a match. Eagle Boy had come to kill him. Sun Muong started screaming for a refund from the stands. Master Chong appeared, froze every official in the building with a single look, and declared this a death match. "My student, my rules." Wu Xiaowu could have surrendered. Master Chong gave him the option. His loyalty to his psychopathic employer won out over his survival instincts. Fong Wan spent the next stretch proving that a bowman with predictive reflexes, infinite regenerating weapons, A new melee amplification could absolutely dismantle a level 36 Birdman in close quarters. Not one clean hit landed on him. He carved from angles that had not existed before he invented them. He finished it with his signature twin-blade crane wing strike. Both swords launched spinning from opposite sides, blocked. Then a fresh pair materialized instantly while the first pair curved back from behind. Eagle Boy had seen the trick. He had not seen the follow-through. Fong Wan snapped his fingers, detonated the blades inside the collision. Fight over. Rank 53 secured. Behind the scenes, Master Chong had flown to the Wei family estate and dropped a sword into their patriarch's fishing lake like a precision warning. The old patriarch, a 300-year-old turtle-class support fighter who had been blissfully unaware his grandson was running murder operations at school, immediately opened an investigation. 3 generations of men delivered the same message down the family chain. 1 slap each. Handle the situation. Wei Shi received his slap, smiled like a broken toy, and quietly promised himself he would continue anyway. This family tree needed professional help, the kind that came with restraining orders and padded walls. Wei Shi's plan had one more piece, rank 6 to 7, a quiet man named Guxing, who showed up at Fong Wan's villa with a golden arrow letter asking to talk. He was nothing like the others. Quiet, no hostility. He asked what Fong Wan thought of Wu Xiaowu. Fong Wan told him the truth. Decent fighter, carrying someone else's baggage. Guxing smiled like that was exactly what he needed to hear, said, "See you around," and walked away. From his eyes alone, Fong Wan could tell what he was planning. He was not coming for Fong Wan. He was going for the source. That night, Guxing walked into Wei Shi's courtyard with a guaranteed kill arrow. Shot Wei Shi through the forehead. Clean. Done. Except it was not Wei Shi. It was a puppet. A body double sitting in that chair at all times. Because Wei Shi had never trusted anyone. The real Wei Shi materialized behind him and ended it before Guxing could react. Guxing was gone. The only decent person in that entire rotten circle. Buried under the earth by a man who treated hearts like stress toys. And somewhere in the dark, a lunatic was deciding that he would come for Fong Wan personally now. Fong Wan did not know any of this yet. He was receiving gifts from Master Chong, body strengthening potion, sunstone, and a bottle called water of life. He drank the body potion, 5 points to every stat at once. He meditated with the sunstone until golden fire appeared on his fingertips. Solar power, every attack now burned. Dark and corrupted creatures took bonus damage. His arrows went from painful to painful and on fire. An inter-academy exchange tournament at Kowloon Academy came next, levels 30 to 40. Master Chong had already signed him up. The greatest living archer taught there, and she happened to be Tuxedo Man's ex-girlfriend. He had written her a personal letter of introduction. Fong Wan collected the gossip potential alone as worth the trip. At Kowloon, built into a mountain range like a fantasy set piece, John Wei was standing with the Earth Academy delegation, grinning like he had found his person again. He had leveled up, joined a Knight's Guild, and been personally brought along by the guild president, a tall, striking warrior woman named Gaia. Fong Wan asked why Gaia specifically chose him. John Wei turned the color of a ripe tomato. The boy had gone from butcher's son to receiving personal mentorship, from a level 39 undead Night Queen, from pork chops to princess treatment. Fong Wan had never been prouder or more amused in his life. The tournament began. 3 events, individual battles, team rounds, and a special endurance trial. His first opponent was Star Moon, level 35 astral mudge, cute, no staff, just a glowing hexagonal tattoo that let her communicate with stars. She called him little brother, summoned meteors from above, trapped him in star chains rising from the ground, and blocked his arrow rain with a constellation shield, all in the first 10 seconds. She was not messing around. Good, neither was he. Her light chains auto-tracked. He introduced her to a honey boomerang sword arrow that also auto-tracked. She blocked it. It fell. It got back up and came again. She panicked, wrapped it in chains to hold it still, and he detonated it directly in her face. The explosion sent her tumbling across the arena looking like she had lost an argument with a fireworks warehouse. Then she pulled her ultimate, condensed an actual star, and threw it like a cosmic bowling ball. A whole star. This girl in casual clothes was yeeting celestial bodies at his head. He activated his infinity circuit, called up Calibal 2, the spiral sword that becomes a nuclear arrow, and let it fly. It drilled through her star like a bullet through paper, kept going. and detonated behind it in a cloud that vaporized the arena. The vice principal of Kunlun had to emergency activate audience shields mid-fight because his arrow nearly took out the spectators. He had nuked someone else's school during a friendly academic tournament. Teacher Ryle looked thrilled. The Kunlun vice principal looked like he was preparing an invoice. Star Moon approached afterward, pale but grinning, and asked for his contact for future sparring. Tao would have had commentary. Sun Muan was screaming from somewhere. They called him Nuclear Arrow Immortal now. He had just wanted to win a match. Instead, he had accidentally become a war crime with a student ID. Shangjing swept the individual and team tournaments. The other 6 academies watched with the energy of students observing a teacher take their own exam. Then came Event 3, the Cloud Ascension Stairs. 9,999 steps up a mountain, each one heavier than the last. Auto-adjusting to your level. Pure willpower, no tricks, no weapons, just how stubborn you were willing to be. Fong Wan looked at those stairs and his competitive instinct stood up and started stretching. Half the contestants were wheezing by step 500. People quit by the thousands further up. Activating emergency teleport stones. Sun Sha held until 5,000 before her legs seceded from her body, and she vanished in a flash of light. Eventually it came down to 3 people who refused to stop. Fong Wan, Gaia the Undead Night Queen, and Xian Jiang the Holy Fist Monk, who had already lost once that day and decided once was his limit. The monk fell first. Then Gaia, her body finally refusing the order, teleported out, and Zhang Wei caught her at the bottom like a romance novel. Moment neither of them would admit was exactly what it was. And then there was only Fong Wan, alone on 9,999 stairs. Every step felt like the mountain had decided to take this personally. His body screamed. His legs filed formal complaints. His brain said, "Keep going, idiot." So he kept going, one step at a time, like a monk on the world's worst pilgrimage, like someone who had decided that stopping was simply not on the available list of options. Somewhere overhead, Master Chong was floating on his sword, calling Tuxedo Man to brag about his student in real time. "My boy, isn't he something? Aren't you jealous?" The man had turned Fong Wan's suffering into a flex broadcast. Proudest and most shameless teacher alive. Fong Wan reached the top, 9,999 steps. First person in the history of the Cloud Ascension Stairs to summit it. Reward, +20 to all stats, 100 free attribute points, equivalent to the gains of multiple level ups, deposited without a single level change. His numbers broke past 300 across the board. Statistically, he had become something the numbers were not designed to describe. Then a woman in red appeared at the summit like she had been waiting. Ni, the legendary archer, level 91, the greatest living practitioner of the art. He had been assigned at 18 as a basic class. She looked at him like he had passed an audition he did not know he was taking. Then she said for words, "Follow me, I'll teach you." He followed. Ni lived on that mountaintop alone. No students, no family, no usable cooking skills. She invited him for tea and accidentally revealed every embarrassing story she knew about Tuxedo Man and Master Chong from their younger days. Fong Wan filed those stories in his brain vault under emergency leverage and hoped she would not kill him for knowing too much. Then she tried to cook dinner and nearly committed a crime against her own kitchen. He took over, made for dishes and a soup, and watched the 91-level legendary warrior have a spiritual experience over his stir-fry. She asked him to teach her one dish that could make an elegant man completely lose his composure. She did not say Tuxedo Man's name. She did not need to. He taught her extra spicy mapo tofu, a dish so violently hot that no amount of sophistication survives it. She needed a test subject. She opened the teleportal to the vice principal's office and fed it to him without warning. Tuxedo Man was hospitalized by tofu, but he came back humming contentedly. She was weaponizing his recipes for romantic warfare, and he was a willing accomplice. Then she got serious, took him outside, stood tall, and announced she would teach him her ultimate technique. Arrow transforms into dragon. She demonstrated. 2 intertwining red dragons punched a hole straight through an entire mountain. Then she looked at him and said, "Pretty cool, right? Lady, you just performed geological surgery with a bow. That is not cool. That is a natural disaster with style points." 2 modes. Mode 1. Twin dragons drill through everything in a straight line. Mode 2. The arrow becomes pure energy that phases through walls, mountains, buildings. Anything standing between you and your target, combined with scout bird targeting and 10-kilometer sniper eyes, he could now assassinate people through solid rock from across the city. She explained the theory. He learned it on the spot. Shot a blue dragon out of his bow on the first attempt. She spent the next few days pouring every technique she had accumulated across decades into him. Not just the flashy abilities, the boring fundamentals that kept people alive. Zero hesitation in teaching everything. Her confidence was built on something deeper than pride. He said goodbye to Linshin, who had discovered that freshman at Kowloon now called Fong Wan a god. Linshin laughed, but the fire behind his eyes had reignited. Good, chase me, buddy. On his way out, the vice principal he had helped poison with Mapo Tofu handed him Soren's book, one of the 6 mystery items Master Chong had listed. The items collected, for more scattered across who knew where. His inventory was filling with artifacts from 6 different mythologies, and he still had no idea what they were building toward. Level 39 could not arrive fast enough. What he did not know was that the evil organizations were meeting about him at that exact moment. The Abyss Church and the 10,000 Races Society had joined forces and hired a level 55 Dark Butcher named Zhang Hai to intercept him on his way home. Their logic: he is only level 30. How difficult can it be? On the road back, a government spy named Gaio blew his own cover to warn Fong Wan. 7 assassins, their leader 25 levels above him. Gaio was already bleeding. Fong Wan looked at him and said, "Want to team up and kill all 7? Gaio stared at him the way you stare at something that should not exist. But what if the lunatic was right? Fong Wan drew the assassins out, used the trees for cover, fired from 3 shifting positions simultaneously, tagged every enemy with his scout bird overhead, and let Gaio handle the ones that slipped through. He hit Zhang Hai with the dragon arrow that phases through matter, and it drilled through solid rock, directly into him. The Dark Butcher went berserk, sacrificed his own life force to power a blood explosion big enough to flatten the hillside. Fong Wan loaded Calibalt 2, wrapped it in Twin Dragon energy simultaneously, a combination he had never tried before, and sent it straight into the blood explosion head-on. The mountain shook. When the dust settled, Zhang Hai was gone, nothing left but a shattered cleaver. Gaio climbed from rubble and asked if he was really only level 30. Fong Wan said yes. Gaio gave him a thumbs up and the 1,000-yard stare of a man reconsidering his entire career. They traveled together for a stretch afterward, grilling monster meat under open sky, sharing stories. Gaio talked about 3 years undercover in a terrorist organization, no glory, no recognition, just iron will and the daily decision to keep doing the right thing when nobody was watching. That was what a real hero looked like, not the flashy kind, the stubborn kind. Gaio disappeared into the trees at some point, off to infiltrate the next nightmare. Fong Wan kept walking toward home. Something had shifted in him on that road. Every time he burned through his mana fighting, his infinity-shaped magic circuit would glow, refill him, and come back slightly more solid than before. Master Chong had said that forming your circuit requires knowing what you truly want. Some people spend lifetimes searching for that answer. Fong Wan found his by accident, somewhere between a monster stampede and a mountain ambush. His soul had simply committed, protecting people, not out of sainthood. He had plenty of selfish reasons woven in, but the actions were real even when the motives were mixed, and apparently that was enough. His magic circuit agreed. He walked the last stretch to the city with the circuit forming inside him, like a root system finding soil, stronger with every step, and a skill list longer than most warriors would carry in a lifetime. The basic archer that a crowd had laughed at on Awakening Day was gone. What walked through those city gates now was something they had no name for yet, but they would.